All right, everybody, I got three after. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. Welcome, everybody, to the March 8th installment of the Colorado NENA APCO Executive Board meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order, and first order of business is always approving the minutes from February 11th. Did everybody get a chance to review Val's email with the meeting minutes for February? Any comments, questions, concerns on those? Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February and move on to the March meeting?
This is Kathy. I move to approve the minutes from the February meeting.
Thank you, Kathy.
Matt seconds.
Thank you, Matt. Matt seconding. All in favor, approve by signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Alrighty, those meeting minutes have been approved. We're going into appreciation real quick. This is a time for anybody on the call to express appreciation to any of the membership, any of the board members, anybody that they like to appreciate. Mr. Romero, I saw you got your hand raised.
Yeah, actually, it was on the minutes. I'm not seeing those on the website as in the meeting materials.
I usually don't post those till they're approved at this meeting, unless you guys want it done otherwise.
Usually they live in the drive until they are approved. Is there any concern with them going up pre-approval?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should wait to post them until they're approved.
Okay. After this meeting, we'll get them over to Technology Committee, and they'll be posted on the website, Bruce.
So if a non-board member has a change that they recognize needs made, how are they going to be able to recognize that if they can't see the minutes before they're posted?
Why can't they bring that up at the next meeting and we could revisit it?
So approve them and then change them. It just seems silly to me that they would not be posted as a draft for all members to see before they're approved.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like the board's elected for a reason. And so surely between the 6 or 8 of us, if we see a challenge or something wrong with the minutes, we can look at that and change it before they get posted. I'm probably not explaining that very well.
That just seems very exclusive.
Okay. We can definitely continue this discussion. I want to get to a couple of other things before we do so. Let's add it to the new business at the bottom of the agenda, and we'll discuss this further once we get there. Mr. Flanagan, your hand's raised.
Yep, I got a little bit of appreciation for Jody, our newest ENP on the board. Congratulations.
Woo.
Thank you.
Great
And I'll
job.
come back to the appreciation for Brad, who was instrumental in helping me get through a couple of difficult pieces I was struggling with prior to taking the test. So thank you, Brad.
Excellent accomplishment, Jody. Congratulations. Ken, what you got, sir?
Well, I'm on the APCO CAC, the membership and marketing, and they're always wanting me to write stuff. So I got to write about my experience of my basically my CCAM job and how much I enjoy working with you guys, and how I think it is important that vendors or anybody get involved. This is kind of volunteer. The more you put in a volunteer organization, the more you get out of it. But you guys made it really easy to write a blog, article, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just thanking you guys for, helping me with what I've done here in the vendors and then also getting to be on the board here. I enjoy it very much.
Thank you, Ken. You've been a wonderful addition to this board, and we appreciate everything that you've done, sir.
Thank you.
Any other items of appreciation? Alrighty, then we're going to move right into our special guest. We've got Stephen Martini, the APCO second VP candidate. Stephen, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. It's fun to see some familiar faces. I really like this chapter's kickoff with the appreciation portion. That's fantastic. What a great idea. I think we're going to borrow that here in Tennessee. I've been involved with APCO since 2008. I've been involved in public safety communications since 2004, so 18 years now, which is kind of crazy to say out loud. Looking for the opportunity or seeking the opportunity here to run for second vice president of APCO International. I have both my EMP and my RPL. I'm working on my CPE certification now. I'm about 3 months into that process with APCO. So I'm very, matter of fact, my lanyard is an EMP lanyard with an APCO hook. So my point is, I believe that both can exist in a shared world, right? Melanie Neal and I have bumped into each other a couple of times, and Leanne Magoski online as they're pursuing their second vice president role. So I just want to look for the opportunity to continue to foster good relationships between all public safety communications professionals. I think that there's some good headway there already on that. Jason Kern with APCO and Jennifer White right now with Nina have great kind of an open door policy communication between the two of them, and I'd like to see that continued. As far as a platform, really what I'm running for, I don't necessarily believe that I've got all the answers. I say I don't necessarily believe. Let me just rephrase that. I know I don't have all the answers specific to public safety communications. What I do know in the 18 years or so that I've been doing this and my involvement with APCO on committee work, whether it was editorial committee developing content for the magazine or group leaders working with the committee work that is done, kind of like Ken was mentioning there with the CAC. I was close with the CAC for a couple of years, is really all the intelligence, all the awareness of what we're doing in our profession is on this call, right? Is in the comm centers, each one of the faces in our magical boxes on today's call. The information and the intelligence of what we're doing is there. And I think the strength of an association, whether it's NINA or APCO or whomever, is connecting those resources inside of the association to each other. This person is struggling with an issue and this person over here has wandered through that before, right? Or this person has sought a solution and this person here is seeking solutions. Being the path to connect those folks to find the solutions is what's important to me. And I'm confident that as we look out 5 years from now, Next Generation 911 is finally at a point where it is operational and we're moving more into the policy and procedure for not just text to 911, right? That's kind of the phrase of text to 911, but what is NG 911? We're starting to see that. Yeah, great, I can receive a text to 911, but I can send text messages too. I can use artificial intelligence to use chatbots to handle some of my non-emergency type calls, to allow my dispatchers more time to stay focused on answering 911 calls. I think that's a huge issue to us. It's not necessarily 911 in Nashville where I'm at. It's our 10-digit line that can absolutely bury our dispatchers. It's non-emergency work. It's here's your 13 warrants we want you to enter into the computer system while you're not doing anything else, right? When they go, the dispatchers, you're just sitting there taking phone calls. How hard can it be? When all that extra work gets lumped on top of our dispatch centers, that's the stuff I'd like to focus on in the next 5 years, is how can we finally leverage our technology and some of this next gen capability to lighten the workload of the console so our dispatchers can focus more acutely on what their job actually is, which is going to reduce the stress at the console, which is going to reduce the amount of people we need to do the job, all those things. I think if we can right size the workload at the dispatch desk, we can solve a couple other problems kind of down the line. And I think it starts with how do we leverage that technology. Y'all don't care so much about my campaign kick, but I would love to give a little opportunity for QA back and forth if there's some engagement.
I got a question.
Sure.
Where do you rank staffing on your ranking of issues in the 911 world?
Man, I have to take myself out of that. In Nashville, we're very lucky right now. I'm currently 2 positions overstaffed, and we've stayed pretty well staffed through the process. But I have friends at Tennessee Highway Patrol who are consolidating shifts, right? They pretty much don't have a midnight shift at one center where they're allowing 2 other centers to run it. And I've got other friends in the southeast portion of the Tennessee that are facing 35% vacancy rates. I think it's important. I think it's critical, but I really think that some of the drivers for obviously retirement is appropriate, right? In Nashville, we just this past August passed legislation aligning retirement for our operational dispatchers with our field response partners. So the same time an officer goes home or a medic goes home or a firefighter goes home, same is true for our dispatchers who work under the headset 51% or more of the time. So I understand that right sizing the retirement is important. I look at mental health and well-being. To me, again, that's workload. What am I expecting that dispatcher to do at that console every day? If we really parse out 911 versus all the 10-digit number type stuff we do, if we can split those out and expect the person at the console to work a manageable amount of work in a period of time, I think it helps with all that added stress. And we've been trying this also in Nashville since October. We divided 911 and our non-emergency call processing. So you're either in a 911 queue and answering 911, or you're answering non-emergency calls. Did it kick up my non-emergency call queue time? Sure did. My call wait time is almost ridiculous for a non-emergency call. Sometimes it's 15, 20 minutes at times. But I point out to the council members and others who visit me that the sign outside our building says emergency communications, and that's our primary focus. And we need to make sure we're doing 911 well. And then we can have a separate conversation about how we're answering those non-emergency calls and to what level of quality the mayor and the council members want those calls answered separately. So I think bouncing between the two, having done that, I started as a police and fire dispatcher in Chattanooga in 2004. Having bounced between the noise complaint and the barking dog, and then a CPR or a stroke or domestic violence, and the next call you take is an illegally parked or improperly parked vehicle in front of somebody's house. That yo-yo, I think, is what causes our dispatchers to hit the street after a couple of years. You go, oh my gosh. And I think you guys know this too, right? 85% of the calls we take really are not 911, what you would consider a 911 emergency. So you say, I want to get into this job. I want to help people. I want to help. And then we take a job that has a tendency to take a whole lot of phone calls that don't require police, fire, or medics to be dispatched. So we spend a lot of our time saying, I can't help with that. I can't help with that. I can't help you. I can't help you. I don't send that response. I don't send that help. And you can only tell somebody who hires, who wants to help, that they're going to sit down at a desk and say, I can't help you, so many times before they say, this isn't what I want to do, right? This isn't what I came on board for. So I think for staffing, there's a lot of different intricate pieces we've got to come along, and it's right sizing the workload and expecting them to do, or giving them the tools to do the appropriate job they hired to do. So it's high, but I think that it's not necessarily let's hire a bunch of people and give them good retirement. I think there's other factors that play into it.
Thank you.
Stephen, I have a question, and this is, I think I might have misunderstood something that came out in the executive council communique. And I certainly don't want you to speak about a competitor that you might have, but are you running unopposed, or do you have someone who's running against you?
I'm currently running unopposed as far as I know. However, it sounds like there may be something out there that pitches that differently, because that's the second time I've had this question this week.
Okay. Well,
the state chapter asked me too. So you running unopposed? Last I thought.
The executive council communique that came out made it appear that you were running unopposed, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't steer this board incorrectly when I said that.
I am running unopposed. Not that I wouldn't have appreciated another face. I think contested races help sharpen conversations, but as far as I know, I'm the only one that submitted an application.
Perfect. We're happy to have you come and chat with our chapter anyway, so.
Great. And Colorado's beautiful, so that's an easy one.
Thanks.
I got a question for you, Stephen.
Sure, bud.
What is your vision of the collaboration between APCO and NENA, and what kind of things did you want to work towards between those two agencies?
Sure. I think the shared mission is obviously maintaining the good relationships that exist around ANSI standard creation and development. I think that's really critical. Clear communication about shared goals. I realize there's some conflicting opinions, I believe, at the national level. And when I say national level, I really mean very top, very specific, maybe a couple of offices national level of ideas about which direction the policy wants to go this way or that way. On maybe next generation 911, for example, of how restrictive do we get with vendor partners? Do we say we really want it to be interoperable from the call to the MDT in the responding vehicle? I think the answer to that is yes. Or do we want to say we're really only focused on the call to the dispatch center, and then however it may transmit from the dispatch center out to the field could be different. In Tennessee, that conversation is one we have a lot. There's about half the 911 centers that are really only responsible for the delivery of the 911 call to the center, and they really don't employ dispatchers. They're not in charge of the process of getting the call out to the field. None of those things. And then there's another half of us, like myself, who do it all, right? We bring the call in, make sure we're receiving it, and we also make sure they're dispatched out, and we're working with the MDTs and the response in the field. And there's an opinion that says that already existed before 911, right? That whole field response process that's been around since Adam 12 in the 1920s, right? When you pull over next to a call box and call back in when they broadcast out. So having those conversations and really getting a definition of what's best, I think really the dispatcher in the seat is responsible for both. And if you give them a call they can't give out, obviously that's a challenge for them. So we have to consider the whole process, whatever that is. But having good, clear, clean, common communication a lot, right? Very consistent communication. And with the existing NENA board, I feel like I have that relationship with those who are running for the NENA board. I either have it or I'm confident that it can be built. Continuing those direct president-to-president type conversations between NENA and APCO at the national level helps remind us that we are all shared together, right? And I can only speak for myself. APCO kind of raised me in public safety communications from a training perspective, PST1, CTO, supervisor, those types of classes. And then when I went to a management bend, I had to go get CMCP, right? I had to work on my ENP certification to really understand that next level of what it was to be an administrator inside of a PSAP world. So to me, the two dovetail very closely together. They're not competitors. So having a good, clean conversation about supporting the comm center to the best that we can is my goal.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Anybody got any other comments or questions for Stephen?
Stephen, this is Kathy. It's just a comment, really. I appreciate what you said earlier about the burden that is placed on 911 telecommunicators because they're only answering the phone, right? I mean, that's been a constant argument with me throughout my career, that just because we're sitting here right now doesn't mean that in the next 5 seconds we're not going to be crazy busy. So I appreciate that part.
Sure. You're very welcome. I've always shared that with when we've had a visitor from the outside, from field response or somewhere else, and our dispatchers are quiet at the moment. Oh, well, it's really boring in here. I said, well, that's a reflection of what's going on out there. If we're sitting, they're sitting. You just don't have a dash cam looking inside that patrol vehicle or that fire truck or that fire hall where they're also not on the call. So that's the deal. As soon as they're busy, we're busy. I promise. We work together. Yeah, you're right.
All righty. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, y'all, very much. I appreciate your time.
We appreciate you, sir. Have a good day. All righty. Moving right along on to the rest of the agenda. Treasurer's report. Miss Jody.
Good morning, everyone. So currently in our total checking and savings is $103,441.40. That's $8,066.96 in our checking, and other than a couple of invoices out for vendors that requested to be direct billed for conference, we do not have anything else outstanding that I'm aware of. Our savings account has $95,374.44. And that is pretty much all I have for the treasurer's report right now, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions or discussion for Jody? Can I get a motion to approve Miss Jody Chin's treasurer's report? Thank you, Matt. Can I get a second?
Kathy seconds.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right, the treasurer's report has been approved. We'll move right into chair reports. Miss Kathy, do you want me to come back to you?
No, that's okay. For the Finance Committee, the only thing going on right now is Jody and I did complete the application for the community credit card. There was one piece of it on there that I did some research. It was was it CAIS or CIAS? I can't remember number that when I looked it up, it's like, oh, you can find it here, but then they wanted to charge us like $10 for it. So it's when I looked up the name of the chapter, it showed that it had one. But I said to Jody, let's just turn it in the way it is, and maybe the bank can help us out with that, so we don't have to pay any extra money. So I think Jody sent it in.
I did. I sent it
okay.
in, and I received an email back from our business banker stating that he had received it, and from his first glance, it all looked good. And he would be back in touch with me 7 to 10 days, which I think would probably be closer to 14 days, given how things have been working lately. But we did put in the request for 2 credit cards, one to Kathy and one to myself. So that we have some redundancy there if needed. And then, of course, if we truly transition treasurer into finance, then that credit card would just stay with that person until both terms are up. So at this point, that's what we've done. If we need to make any changes, then please just let me know. And then we did review the bylaws a little bit with Matt. And I don't think we had any major changes, but hopefully we can get those out pretty soon. So.
And that's my report. Thanks, Jody.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Any questions for Finance Committee? All right, we'll move into membership. Scott or Kimber, you guys on the call?
Scott sent an email that he wasn't able to attend and didn't have any update.
Awesome. Thank you. Moving into conference committee, I don't see Ms. Avalos. Matt, you got anything?
Sure. The conference committee met just prior. Things are coming along quite nicely. We kind of just revisited some stuff with the hotel and schedule. Biggest thing is for any of you on the call who haven't made your hotel reservation, you may not be at the conference hotel. We've got some other stuff up on the website as far as other local hotels, but just because of their booking and stuff, that's kind of where things were. One big thing we talked about was the app. It's going to be an app for the chapter, but it's going to be really premiered, for lack of a better term, probably in conjunction with the conference. There's going to be some solidified plans between hopefully Yvette and myself about communication of the conference and making sure we're really pushing that out. We're going to try to map out some jobs or roles to make sure people on the conference committee and also the executive board are kind of aware of what some expectations and hopes will be during the conference. Registration, Bruce is on here, but Bruce is kind of handling our registration. Is looking excellent. We're at 81 registrants for the conference. We've got a good host of vendors, not just vendors signed up to attend, but also vendors to be sponsors, which is exciting. Ken's continued to do some really good work there. I think the pre-conference NINA course is nearly full. We've got just a handful of open spots left in that. The one that Jeff Com is presenting is starting to get some momentum. And yeah, long story short, we're looking forward to the conference. So if you guys haven't registered yet, just please make sure you're getting registered as soon as possible. One of the price increases just happened a couple weeks ago, but we've got so much awesome stuff. And Bruce at a different meeting he and I were on was speaking about just the continued value of our conference. Even some of the other chapters in the western part of the country, significantly more for their conferences. And some of that they're providing some additional, but I think we've got just a great conference with a price point. So get registered. Those pre-conference courses are totally free, and hotel rooms are filling up quickly. Are there any questions? Or anything that those of you on that last meeting I missed? Otherwise, I think that's a somewhat brief update for it.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Any comments or questions for the conference committee? Alrighty, we'll move into outreach. Ashley.
I don't have anything this week, or this month, I should say.
Alrighty, thank you, Ashley. Technology, Daryl or Patrick? All right, thank you, Daryl. Education, Jennifer Kirkland.
So I met this week with the mental health first aid group, and we are working on putting together some dates and locations around the state for mental health first aid so we can get the dates out. We all agree that getting the word out ahead of time and allowing for people to plan is probably the best way to serve our smaller centers, so that they can send people. But we have some great partners with the mental health first aid group in this state, so I just want to call out to them. I also want to give a shout out to Nate, our historian, and to Daryl. They did some work on updating our history timeline and making it more clear on the website, specifically because when we have people in RPL class, the last section of the RPL is all history and research. And John Kyler, a few years ago, gave us an amazing amount of history and timeline and that kind of thing. And Nate did a great job of creating a timeline that's very easy to see. And then Daryl is doing a great job of putting it into our chapter history on the website so that all of our RPL students can go and find that in an easily located and easy to read format. So I just want to say thank you. I know it's not directly related to education, but it's education adjacent. So thanks, you guys. I really appreciate the help.
Yeah, that is awesome. Any comments or questions for Jennifer in education? Bylaws, moving back to you, Mr. Harwell.
Yeah, Jody and Kathy kind of referenced it. And if I, let me get back to the right screen. Let me see if I can actually share my screen briefly. There we go. So this is the financial operations portion. This is the draft. Kathy and Jody did some excellent work. What's highlighted there in yellow are the main things. So like we've done in the past, unless there's any significant concerns, we'll put this up on the website. Daryl, I'll get it over to you when the meeting's over. Unless there's any questions, I've kind of peeked at it. I think Kathy and Jody did some good work on it. And long story short, as we discussed, I think in the interim, this and then the other change that we didn't have any feedback from as far as bylaws, we were going to, once both of them were together, we'll kind of package them for approval from the chapter and we'll get those changes made. And then once we get the full overhaul and kind of review of bylaws done, we'll get those to the national organizations. But just looking at this, are there any questions or concerns? I know some of you, it's your first read of it. We'll get it pushed out to everyone and kind of do the feedback portion like we've done with other bylaw stuff, though. I'm going to try.
Are we going to mark in there anything about a continuing balance on the credit card that we'll maintain, or is it always going to be zeroed out by the month? What are we going to do as far as payments on that credit card?
I think it should be paid off every month. I don't think we should hold a balance on it.
Do we want to add that in there then?
We can.
I think it'd be ideal.
Okay. That's what I do, so that's just what I assumed we would do. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think I assumed that as well, but it's probably good to spell that out. Thanks for that point, Adam.
Yeah. Matt, do you want to just add that as number 15 or put it somewhere where it would mix better? Do you want me to update it and send it to you? Or Jody?
Yeah, if one of you two, I don't care if one of you two want to update it, and then we'll just, we can push it to the board, and then once everyone's content, we'll put it up on the site through Daryl for feedback and give it kind of a time frame.
Okay. I can do that, Jody, if you're all right with that, and then I can forward it to Jody and Matt.
That sounds perfect.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns from anyone as you're kind of skimming over this?
Looks good to me. Thanks to all of those involved in this.
Okay. Well, that's all I really had with bylaws stuff. for now is we're kind of working on the total overhaul and looking at some other things. I think some of that may get pushed to after the conference just because it's getting busier for me personally and stuff. So more to come on bylaws and such. And I will stop sharing the screen unless there's any other questions or people are still looking at it.
Alrighty. Last call for any other questions for Matt and bylaws. Alrighty. Moving on to chapter historian. Nate, are you on the call?
He is not. He is actually homesick. So I'm going to give him a bunch of crap about that. But he didn't have anything new. So, and I will make sure, Jennifer, to let him know what you said, because I know he will appreciate it.
Thanks. I'm super grateful. He was great. He was very helpful. And I love the timeline. Although I did ask Daryl to put a little note on the website saying that all RPL information can be found by viewing the timeline, because otherwise I think people could, they might be looking for the information in bullet format. But I think the timeline's better because it doesn't just give you the answers. It makes you go through our history, which is the whole point of the RPL class anyway.
Thanks, Daryl. It just looked weird to me. I wanted to make sure it wasn't just the way I was, my viewer was picking it up.
Alrighty. Thank you, everybody. And Nate, when you see this recording, thank you for all the work you've been doing too. Moving into ProChart, reminder for all on the board and all listening, we do have a vacancy for ProChart committee. So if you're interested in chairing that, certainly get with any one of the board members and we can get you spun up. Next is peer support, Miss Raylene. Oh, Ray is not on the call. I thought she was. Val, did you get anything from Ray?
I did, but not for peer support.
Oh, wonderful. And then Turt, Linnell, are you on the call? Any update from Linnell, Val?
No, I did not receive anything from her.
Can I add something real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to TURT, I'm on the Member Chapter Services Committee for APCO. And on March 29th, that committee is putting on a webinar in regards to TURT. So I'm sure it's been advertised, and I did reach out and talk with Linnell and of course Nate, because Nate is part of that as well. Nate is actually going to be on the webinar and do a presentation. So it's probably going to be pretty good. We've got some states that are going to be on that webinar that are going to have, they're way more active. They have a lot more call outs, I should put it that way, in TURT. So it's going to be a pretty good webinar if anybody's interested in joining that on the 29th.
All righty. Thank you, Kathy. Next is professional development. Matt and Brad.
Brad, unless you have something, I think one thing, Brad and I, as we're continuing to work on these things, I think we're going to try to grow the committee, get some of those books done. Because of Brad's role with some stuff with Nina, he has to be cautious. So I'll be taking a little bit of leadership with that. Some of that will probably be pushed to after the conference just because my work and extracurricular stuff is just getting busy leading up to the conference and stuff. But unless Brad has a lot of stuff, I think we're still trying to touch base, get a committee grown, built, and also work on those the documents to help people as far as really preparing for some of those next steps, ENP, some of the other processes. So it's very exciting to hear. I mean, Brad individually has always been doing some great support. I think as a chapter, we've had a lot of beneficial resources. We're just needing to really update a lot of those. And again, it's these little things like what we heard about Nate with the timeline and just helping people with when it comes to RPL. Having the resources readily available, I think is a huge asset to our membership versus every time someone does RPL, trying to find the right people to ask and getting different answers. So I'm glad to see that we're setting a really solid standard. I don't have anything specific unless Brad had additional.
No, just to clarify on that. So my role in the NINA Institute board, I have to really be hands off on the EMP stuff specifically because I'm involved in the creation of questions or items. I'm happy to talk to anybody about how we build the EMP tests, how we, administer the test or review any of the questions or anything like that. But anything else with the EMP, I kind of have to distance myself from. But the RPL, CPE, any other professional development stuff, I'm going to be, building that piece out while Matt's working on the ENP TEDx style webinar things that are going to be really awesome. We're going to try and break those into really great study guides for people. So we're very excited about that.
Excellent, gentlemen. Any questions for Matt or Brad on professional development? Matt, if there's anything that you need from me or any one of us for your committee cultivation, we'll call it, definitely I can send something out or blast out whatever we need to. Moving on to PUC update, Mr. Darrell Branson.
And turning on both microphones so that you can hear me and I'm on the webcast too. The only thing I want to mention is that the PUC is going to be issuing draft rules to improve 911 network reliability in the state tomorrow. So at the Commissioners' Weekly meeting tomorrow, those are going to be issued. So be watching for those. Those will come out probably in the next week or so. And that's it.
Awesome. Any questions for Darrell for PUC? Alrighty, we'll move into our national partners. Start off with Bruce Romero for NINA.
Thanks, Adam. Just a few things I wanted to mention. Next week is 911 Goes to Washington. If you are attending that event and you have not filled out the form on the Resource Center's website, please do so as soon as possible. I've been working on getting all of those meetings scheduled in DC, which has proven to be quite the challenge this year. It's always a challenge to get those meetings scheduled, and for some reason this year is that much more difficult. And I'm hearing the same thing across the nation. Everybody is having a very, very hard time. I've been trying for 2 months now and still have not heard back from some of the offices. But be sure to fill that form out if you are planning to attend so I can include you on the invitations for those meetings. And then another reminder that the 2022 Conference and Expo is June 11 through 16 in Louisville, Kentucky. Please get your registration done on that as soon as possible, and looking forward to a great conference there. I was going to bring up something about 988, but I see it later on the agenda, so I'll just include my discussion on that when we get to that point. But other than that, I don't believe I have any other updates. Oh, wait, one update. Elections are coming up. March 15th is when that opens up. You will be voting for the second VP candidate. There are 2 candidates, as you know, Melanie Austin-Neal and Leanne Magowski. So whoever you vote for, please just exercise your right to vote. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce. Any questions for NINA national level? Alrighty. Ms. Jennifer Kirkland for APCO.
It's all good. Sorry about that. So APCO, we continue to work toward the national conference, and keynotes are being announced. So keep an eye on the website for that. We have some great ones already coming. If you put in to speak, you should be hearing back from APCO. Definitely by the end of the month. But I would say in the next 2 weeks, look for that. Flash Day is going to be April 4th. Mark your calendars because it's normally April 1st, but they moved it to April 4th, I think, to accommodate for it being a Monday instead of a Friday. So mark your calendars, get registered. It's going to be in sunny Anaheim, California. Let's go see the mouse. And I think it's going to be a great conference. So keep an eye out for that. I'm glad Stephen clarified what I thought I saw in the executive communique, that he is running unopposed, but you still have to vote, I think. So if APCO sends out ballots, I would just echo Bruce and say, please exercise your right to vote. It is our association, and voting is how we have a say in that. That's the only update I have for now.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. Any comments, questions for Jennifer and National APCO?
I'm so sorry. I have one other thing. Committee signups are open. So if you are someone who enjoys serving on an APCO committee, or if you want to get involved in serving on an APCO committee, you have to re-sign up every year for each committee. And so the window for that is open now. So please go sign up and help make APCO great.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. Alrighty, that wraps up national news. Now we'll move into new business. Jennifer, you're number one again. Move your crash card.
So, as I think some of you know, I'm the governor-appointed 911 representative to the governor's task force on responder safety. And our main purpose on that task force is to make sure that all of our responders go home at the end of their shifts. Specifically trying to reduce and eliminate crashes that kill our first responders. So as part of that, I've been working with my partners on that task force to create something that I call a Move Your Crash Card, with the idea being that if you, those of us who work the consoles have a unique opportunity to affect the outcome of a crash right away by telling people to move their crash according to state law. However, as we know, some of the things get in the way of that, most likely usually being an officer who has it in their mind that dispatchers don't have the right to tell callers when to move their crash, et cetera, et cetera. So we created a Move Your Crash card, which I'm going to show you right now. Hold on, I got to find it. Yeah, technology. Here we go. So this is the Move Your Crash card that we came up with. Thank God people are good at graphic design, because I am not. There are 4 different versions of the card, but the only thing that changes is the picture involved. And what this is designed to do is sit at each console in the state and remind dispatchers to ask, when they're taking the report of a traffic crash, ask if there are injuries and are there drugs and alcohol involved. And if the answer to both those questions is no, we are asking dispatchers to tell the caller to move their crash off the roadway to the nearest off-ramp, the nearest parking lot, etc. Get the location of where the caller is going so that you can advise the responders. This is the why are we doing this, and here's the state statute that says this is lawful direction. Just in case any officers or any callers resist. Obviously, we can only do so much. If they're saying, no, I'm not going to move, well, we did our best, right? But this is giving the dispatchers the authorization and the guidance to do that. With that, we also created an implementation card. So giving best practices to 911 directors on how to implement this crash card. The first up is to communicate with their law enforcement agencies that their 911 professionals are going to be using this card, because we want to get ahead of officer not so friendly calling in or coming in later and yelling at the dispatcher for telling them to move their crash when that's actually what it should be done. So we want to make sure law enforcement is aware that we're going to be using this. We want to provide training to the call takers and dispatchers as to why we're trying to do this, and then place a copy of the card at each call taking or dispatch position and incorporating the card's use into your policies and procedures. And it's got my phone number and my email on there in case people have questions. We are extremely fortunate to have CDOT as a partner, and they are footing the bill to print about, I think I asked them for 350 copies of the card and 100 copies of the dispatch crash card implementation, with the idea being that we're going to bundle these and send them out to all the PSAPs in the state via the mail so that they can have those. With that, I have asked for time on the CSOC meeting and the IAC, or not IACP, the Colorado Chiefs Association. I've asked for time on both of their agendas to present this. I'd like to have some of these available at the conference for distribution so that we can get them out that way and save ourselves some postage. And Bruce, yes, I would love to post that to the Resource Center website as soon as we have the cards and are ready to distribute, so people, so the rollout happens in a organized fashion. But I wanted to present them here so that you guys had a chance to take a look at them, ask any questions, and I'm asking for permission to distribute them at the conference, since it's not obviously my personal conference to distribute stuff at.
My only question, Jennifer, and maybe it's something that is just agency to agency and just something that you'll have to deal with, depending on where you're at. Is there any resource for directors and upper management on how to have that conversation with the police departments? If you're a regionalized center and you're handling 15, 16 departments, is there talking points that work, or is there something that you guys have found works better for convincing officer not so friendly?
Yeah, that's a great question. This part of the task force is working with regional TIMS teams, traffic incident management teams. And actually, Weld County in northern Colorado is very active in TIMS teams. And so this should not be the first time they're hearing about this, but I would start with those TIMS teams and get the word out through there. But the talking points are really, the sole purpose of this is to get responders out of active traffic so that their lives are saved, basically. So they're not investigating crashes in active traffic, and the likelihood of a secondary crash that kills them is much less. So those are the talking points, and I'm happy to go and speak to anybody. And if you think we need additional resources to answer that particular question, I'm happy to develop that too. I might also need some help in developing talking points, because to me, saying this is to save your life, that should be the end of it. But we all know that that's not the end of it. So I have a hard time moving past that particular one. So I'm open to suggestions. And I think Val had her hand up first, and then Matt.
Yeah, Jennifer, I just had an EMD question. I know you're from an ACE agency doing this through the EMD process, asking about drugs and alcohol. Would, I think, be considered a freelance question. I think our national queues would have a problem with that. Are you planning on implementing that in internal policy that we share with the queues that grade the calls as a workaround, or what were your plans for that?
So if you complete all of the EMD questioning and PDIs, if you ask this at the end of the call, that's not considered a freelance. So you complete your EMD first and then ask those two questions.
Okay, gotcha. I was envisioning this at the beginning, moving the accident and then continuing, but that makes sense.
I think it goes the other way around, mostly because through that EMD questioning, you might get the answers to these two questions. And you might not have to answer them, but if you go through the EMD and you still don't have the answers to those questions, then you can ask them. And moving the crash is going to be the last thing you want to tell them, because theoretically, when you tell them to move, now they're going to be focusing on moving, and you don't want them really talking and moving their crash at the same time.
Right. We have an agency that asks injuries by policy at the very beginning. So we'll just need to make that clear within our county. So thank you.
Sure. And the nice thing is that you can incorporate it wherever it works best into your workflow, as long as you're incorporating the crash card. Matt, go ahead. I think you're on mute, dude.
I know. I unclicked the raise my hand and not the mute too. Too many buttons to click. So one thing I was going to say, and I think this, Jennifer, is huge. Thank you for the work on it. And I know, like you said, just for those of you who are wondering about what implementation can look like and stuff, don't forget at the state conference every year, we have Colorado State Patrol come, and they talk about the traffic incident management stuff for dispatchers. And I'll be honest, we don't send a lot of law enforcement how our structure is. It's usually a lot of state patrol or other cities sending for crash investigations. But having gone through to be trained to teach the course, it opened my eyes to the gravity of the situation. And so I think having state patrol, and unless anyone has any concerns, if we're going to try to make this a component of the conference to let people know about this, I will see if we can't even get between CDOT and Sergeant Bart Triple, who's the 3 Charlie guy up here in Larimer County, to be there, and also Sergeant Jerry Sharp, who teaches out at State Patrol's Academy, but he's in charge of their education component. I'll see if they can't be there through the bulk of the conference. That way, if agencies have questions, if people have questions about talking points from a law enforcement perspective, I mean, they too, I think, would agree with Jennifer that the point is, why would you want to put any responders' lives in jeopardy if you don't need to? Like, that seems simple enough, but they may be a good connection point, State Patrol, to talk to your individual law enforcement agencies like you're asking, Adam. So just put that out, that State Patrol and CDOT both greatly value moving the crash, even if it needs to be marked and moved by a fire department, it because officer, whatever, doesn't want to, just mark it and move it. So I think there's a lot of blessings to this. So thank you for the work, Jennifer. And unless there's any opposition, I'm going to reach out to Bart Triple today and say, hey, we're planning to maybe kind of roll this out at the state conference. Can you guys be available to answer questions? Does anyone have any opposition to that?
No, they're already teaching a session. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great session. And honestly, that session, if we have some of those resources available, Jennifer, I'm sure they will peddle those freely to their session attendees.
I'm hoping to have them by the conference. I asked CDOT, although when someone's giving you something free, you don't have a whole lot of control over it. Kathy?
Yeah, I was wondering if you would be able to forward those screenshots that you sent to me so that I could start the process here with going through our command staff and letting them know about this. That would be great. I'm actually on Tim's calls at least once a month out here, so I'd like to move forward with that. Although it is kind of, was there something different? Because in my career, we've been telling people to pull off of roads for ages. So,
well, you are in the minority, I think.
Okay.
And I'm happy to send them. And if anybody else on the call wants it, if you want to holler out now, I'll just add you all to this email that I just started. Just keep in mind that we have not officially rolled it out yet, but internally and starting the process, I think it's great. So who else wants it?
Jennifer, I'll take it. I'd like to get it before my board.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like it too, Jennifer. And that way I can, when Bart and I sit down, we'll kind of look at it.
Okay. And the TIMS teams, I highly encourage you guys, if you are not involved in your regional TIMS process or a team, then please reach out to State Patrol, to your State Patrol sergeant in your area, and ask if you can be on that. TIMS teams are designed to be inclusive, and they want dispatch involvement. They involve the tow companies, they involve CDOT, they involve fire, they involve everybody. And so you should be involved if you are not already. And I really highly would echo what Matt said and encourage you to get your people TIMS trained. I'm trying to get all of our people TIMS trained over the course of this year. It seems like it wouldn't be valuable because TIMS is a 4-hour class that talks about vehicle placement and that kind of thing. However, it's extremely beneficial to dispatchers to understand what the field responders are doing and the challenges that they're facing, and dispatch's role in setting them up for success before they even get on scene. So,
and if I can build on that, Jennifer, I know one thing up here in Larimer, again, we have fortunately a very involved TIMS. Our traffic incident management plan is brilliant. They've pre-mapped, like, if certain roads are closed. I mean, they're very thorough. And one of the big things is getting those of us who are dispatchers through the full training certification. I think it's a 2 or 3 day class, which has allowed us then to be that much more advocates for it, but really to go in and then train, whether it be tow companies or even some of your county, like essentially CDOT versions, but for your county, if they're going to be bringing out different barriers or things like that, or how can they, if there's a big crash and a snowplow driver comes up on it, how can they safely create an area for advanced notification or advanced warning with their overhead amber lights? And so when you find those benefits, it's very easy for us as dispatchers to get in and help educate. So I would definitely echo what Jennifer said. Get your people trained and get them trained to be instructors if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And like Jennifer had mentioned, Weld County is involved in several of the TIMS committees up here for the different highways that we have, and we've had a lot of success. I don't know if it is a current thing, but when the last time I took a TIMS course, they were talking about adding in a communication section anyway. So there was a section based solely on communication and not just field responder response. So I agree. Getting everybody through those TIMS trainings is excellent. And Jennifer, yeah, we have implemented it at our agency as well. The Move Your Crash, we've wrote it into our policies and everything. The reason I ask about the certain chiefs is that I do know that we've got some questioning individuals and some questioning departments just wanting to know the why. So I agree. I think it would save your life, should be first and final, but just in case.
I know, it's okay. We can bemoan the need for control on some other call.
Indeed.
I have to jump off for another call. I'm so sorry, but if you guys have any questions about any of that, just feel free to email me and I'll get with you.
Alrighty, thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, everybody. I'm sorry I'll miss your dad joke, Adam.
Alrighty, we'll move into. I guess let me rephrase this. I know that Jennifer's off the call, but any remaining questions on the Move Your Crash that we can just save for the recording for anything that needs followed up on? Glorious. We'll move on to election dates. Val, you said you had something for that?
Yeah, so Raylene wanted me to update everyone that she has at least one submission for all positions. So she would like to know when the committee wants to run the election for that 2-week period.
Any comments or ideas?
The change of this is at the conference, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can you create a call for mental subjects using the school address and then start a road fire for transport for
Do we want to do March 20th?
Yeah.
3rd?
Yeah, I think that's good because after that, then you're going to get into NTW. So, yeah, that's probably good. And then we'd know and be ready by the conference in May. Yeah, look at that. It's like I used to scroll through 6 months to get to the conference. Now it's down to 2.
It's right there.
So, yeah, it's right there.
Alrighty then, for Raylene, can I get an approval to start the election process starting Sunday, March 20th and ending Saturday, April 2nd?
This is Kathy. I move.
Thank you, Kathy. Can I get a second?
This is Jody. I'll second.
Thanks, Jody. All in favor of starting the election process the 20th and ending on the 2nd, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All righty. Val, would you get back with Raylene and let her know?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Any other questions on elections? Alrighty, so then we'll move into 988. I threw this up here as kind of a starting point, as a discussion topic that I think we should all dive into. I know that Bruce said that he had some stuff on 988, and hopefully we can get his input via email or maybe at next meeting. But with 988 coming on board in July, I think that we need to start having a discussion about what kind of involvement we as a committee or we as a board as a whole need to start having with 988. If anything, I wanted to kind of pose it out there and get people's thoughts on it.
Well, this is Kathy, and I've recently taken over the vice chair for the EZNet users group, and this is a topic of conversation. Tina Powell is, of course, the chair for this year, and she and I met with Kim Culp last week talking about this. And I don't have my notes up in front of me, but one of the issues is having, I'm gonna say this wrong. One of the issues is having a 7-digit number on your lines versus a 10-digit number. I know, Matt, I'm not saying it right, so don't jump. Let me see if I can find my notes. But most of the PSAPs in the state have switched over to 10-digit. Hang on just a second.
Sorry, I wasn't shaking my head. I was just looking at a different screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Most of the PSAPs have switched over to 10-digit, but there are some that have not. And we are waiting on a list from Lumen/CenturyLink on those PSAPs so that we can reach out to them. Unfortunately, hang on. It's going to be right around, it's about $5,000 to make that switch, if I recall correctly. I just found my notes, so let me look through this. But that is something, we are having our EZNet user group meeting tomorrow. So that is something that will be talked about during that meeting again. So that I think it's July 17th is the cutover day to have that 983 area code. And that doesn't give us a whole lot of time to identify these PSAPs, reach out to them, and try to get them converted over. Plus, there's the monetary issue that goes along with that as well.
What is everyone's thought? And I know that the 10-digit dialing is something that we need to. Kathy, remind me, is that something that is a requirement in order for us to cut over, or are we cutting over regardless on the 16th?
No, I think they need to be converted.
Okay.
I found my notes here. It says, because of the new area code that's coming in June, all of the CPEs for the PSAPs that are at 7-digit need to be converted to 10-digit to be able to, for that new area code. And we're waiting on a list from Lumen.
Okay. As far as involvement with 988, Colorado Crisis Services is the ones that's behind the 988 for Colorado. Is there something that we need to do to get them more involved in the board? Do you guys think that we should have them present to us? What kind of things do you think we would need from them just so that we ensure that interoperability is there? Daryl, I saw you.
Yeah, so this is Daryl. I've got a little bit of information on that. So the 988 Enterprise Board is the board that funds the Colorado Crisis Hotline now, with 988 coming up and with the 988 surcharge being implemented this year. And the Crisis Hotline is apparently in the process of hiring 1 or 2 911 liaisons. I'm keeping tabs on that so that after that person's hired, we can get them involved with the Nino APCA board, with the 911 Advisory Task Force, and with any other appropriate venue for them to be a part of. I also let them know that we do have the conference coming up in May, so if they get the person hired before then hopefully they can attend the conference and introduce themselves to people and kind of get their face known so that people can talk to them. I'm also just recently been contacted through the National Association of State 911 Administrators, the National Mental Health Association, which does a lot of the funding of the state crisis hotlines, is looking for 5 states to be sort of pilot programs on developing protocols that 911 centers can use so that we can help standardize when 911 a caller should be transferred to 988 and vice versa, when a 988 caller should be transferred to 911 so they get the right resources. And I went ahead and told them that I thought Colorado would probably be interested in participating as a pilot program state for that. So hopefully they'll be following up on that soon, so I can relay some more information about that when that happens.
Thanks, Daryl. With that information about the 911 liaison, do we want to wait until that person has been labeled to start reaching out to Colorado Crisis, or do you guys think it would behoove us to start reaching out now to see if there's anything that we can offer?
Hurt to reach out to them now. They are really busy right now ramping up because they're anticipating that when 988 officially goes live this June, that they will see a large increase in their call volume. So they're hiring, they're training supervisors, and increasing their capacity. So I don't know how much time they'll have for that type of project, although that's also very important. So they may prefer to wait until they get that person that they're specifically hiring for that purpose in place. But I don't know that it hurts to reach out to them now and say, hey, if there's anything that we can do to help, let us know.
Does anyone have any contacts within Colorado Crisis Services? I know Tina does, but I wanted to see if anybody on the board does.
I don't have any additional. They spoke at the conference last year. I think they had one session, and so I know they also had a booth, if I remember correctly.
Yes, they had, I've got someone's email somewhere from that. They were at the show. They did it through a marketing company or something like that, but I could hunt it down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would say what was that?
I think it was Colorado Crisis Center, right?
Yeah, and they were, there's kind of two different names, but that was the juxt of it. I'm trying to blank on the guy's name. I know he was in a booth, and that's all I kind of remember about him besides his name. So my personal thing would be to echo what Daryl said. I think getting ahead of this is always better than continuing to wait, just given that when things go, it's going to go quickly. So we might as well try to make some of those connections and at least say, hey, we're here. This is some good contacts within the state already.
And I have some contacts through the 988 Enterprise Board as well.
Okay. Wonderful. I will get with you guys to see and coordinate a message that we want to reach out with them. The last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about with 988, and I know this might just be as we get into it, can anyone foresee any additions or anything that we should be thinking about in our own bylaws that we should be starting to spin up or starting to think about? I definitely think once we start getting into the operations of it and the collaboration, there might be some stuff that we want to write down. But if you think of anything, definitely get with Matt to kind of start adding that to the docket, because I know they're doing a full workup on those bylaws soon. Any other comments, questions, concerns about 988? Alrighty, we'll have some more information next meeting, and hopefully we can get some of the talking points that Bruce wanted to go over with us. I do know that Nina has a working group for 988. I can't see anything at APCO that is the same thing, so I don't know what APCO is doing for 988. Last topic on discussion, and this one's missing Bruce as well, the meeting minutes. So we had a concern from a member at the beginning of this for the meeting minutes not being presented in draft form. Opening this up for discussion and trying to figure out what the best avenue is approach moving forward and keeping the meeting minutes in draft form on the website.
This is Kathy. I agree with the way that we're doing it right now. I feel they should be reviewed by the board first and then published. That's just my thought on it. I mean, I agree with what Jennifer said. I mean, the board is in place for a reason.
I agree with Kathy on that also. As long as we keep our previous version, if we make a change, the board makes a change for whatever reason, right? Edits, fixes, all that. As long as we do have that previous version, if somebody wants to look at it, it's available. But I don't think there's any need to have that out there until it's been approved by the board.
The only thing in bylaws that I could find that mentions the minutes specific to the secretary says that they must distribute accurate minutes of all meetings to the members and the executive board. I think that accurate part of it kind of solidifies the need for us to review it first to make sure that we're posting up what actually occurred.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I guess I concur with everyone. That was, I guess it's my understanding of kind of the normal flow. I think since, Daryl's been very diligent in ensuring all of our meetings are recorded, they're there for that consumption by membership, even if they miss the meeting. And I guess maybe the only difference is if we want to make sure we're putting a visual copy of the meeting minutes up, like while we're asking for approval. But again, people can look at the old meeting recordings. They have access to those minutes after they've been approved, and then they are posted. So I agree with everyone's thoughts. I think we're doing things well, and I too checked in bylaws and didn't see anything conflicting per se. I think the accurate is kind of the only thing, and I get it's up for interpretation, but I think we're doing a fine approach.
Alrighty. Hearing all that, any recommendations at this point for changing our current process?
No.
Alrighty. We'll continue on until we hear, or unless we hear otherwise. All right. Anything else for new business?
Yeah, I've got some new business.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was out at the California NINA show. Of course, I got to travel out of state to talk to Monica. I think our best opportunity here to do the Colorado statewide recruitment video to hopefully get some more dispatchers will be during the trade show. And I already talked to Val. She's going to give up her center so we can shoot some video in there, because I think it's appropriate that we have furniture and everything in the background. It looks like a 911 center, so that's the way to do it. And what I'd like to do is I'll have Solomon up there for 2 days, and we'll start working on this. And I'd like to be able to get you guys as managers need to be able to bring me some dispatchers that speak well, and then we've got some diversity also is what we're looking for. And we'll start putting together, this is sponsored by Zybex. We're going to start putting this thing together and get a video together that the whole state can use. Where they put that, I don't know, and all that. Someone else has some better ideas. Brad or Daryl had some good ideas on that. So, and then we can make this available to the individual counties, cities, whoever wants to use it. We can send them a copy of it. They can use one off of some other website, whatever. I'm happy to help with some of that too, but I just want to kind of make sure that's cool with everybody. I don't know if I'm asking for permission. I'm kind of telling you guys we're doing this because I want to get it done.
Any questions or concerns for Ken on creating a recruitment video at the conference this year?
If we put Matt on it, I'm trying to figure out how much facial hair he can have, because it looks like he grows in about a day.
That mustache is pretty strong, Mr. Harwell.
So, and I'll be happy to get some ideas from you guys on what, I'll shoot a couple videos that we've done for just specific 911 centers, get an idea how we're doing these recruitment videos. And if you got some ideas, I'll be more than happy to look at those and get the ideas to Solomon and see if we can put something together that is really super good, that everyone in the state can use.
Alrighty. Thank you, Ken. Any comments, questions, concerns for Ken? Any other new business that anybody wants to discuss? Any old business that needs to be taken care of at this point? Alrighty. Well, we've reached the opportune time of the meeting, my monthly dad joke. So the one for this month is, why do leprechauns love to garden? Because they all have green thumbs. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely.
And I'll second Kathy's motion.
Thank you. Alrighty, everybody. Have a great month. We'll see you next month.
All right. Bye.
Good enough. We'll talk to you later. Bye.